Alright guys, it's Radiant, and today's video is an in-depth look at how the EotM overflow system operates. So all the stuff that we're going to be talking about is how the EotM match resets work. That includes the precise timing on how EotM goes down and comes back up. We're talking about how to get the commander tag first, and about how the overflow opens up and fills up, how the teams are decided, how the game decides which EotM overflow that you're placed in. And we're also going to be talking about joining overflows while in a party, whether you're in the same team or different team. So yeah, we'll get started. So you can see already that in this match the timer reached 0 and the score prompt came up. So when that happens, the match is done, and basically the match has already been decided at that point in time, and whichever server won, or whichever color won, all those servers of that color get a supply drop at their citadel. So you can actually still play, and you can still capture stuff. It's just not going to affect the score. So you'll still get the rewards, so go ahead and keep playing. And so basically when that timer reaches 0, there's going to be 8 minutes and 12 seconds until the next set of matches come up. Now you have 5.5 minutes to still play while there's 0 seconds left. And after those 5.5 minutes are up, you're going to be getting the kick out message, and you'll be kicked out of EotM. And also when the timer reaches 0, while you can still play, people cannot join EotM. They're going to have to wait until the matches come up. You can't join when there's 0 seconds left in the match. So that's pretty much how the EotM resets work. Now, what I like to do when I'm trying to get the tag is I like to just sit in the overflow while the match is ending, and then after I get the kick-out message, I know it's only 2 minutes and 42 seconds until the next set of matches come. Now you can also, when the timer reaches 0, you can just set your stopwatch, and as it approaches, let's say 8 minutes, then you're just going to start spam clicking, and you're going to already be trying to get back in the EotM instance. So yeah, you can set a stopwatch. That would probably be the easiest. Now we're just fast forwarding real quick, so we just jumped ahead, and we got right to the kick-out messages. You'll get 3 of them, and then you're kicked out. And then there's going to be a lot of fast forwarding in this video, so we're going to be skipping some random stuff just to avoid confusion. It's not a live commentary, I'm just commentating over pre-recorded footage. So the next thing is going to be, we're going to get kicked out. It should be 2 minutes and 42 seconds until the next set of matches come up that redirects us to wherever. So if you want to get the commander tag first, I recommend you go to Lion's Arc and you stand outside the EotM portal. You just spam click F and spam click OK. It'll put you in EotM. So EotM just came back up because we did skip ahead. That's why it was so fast, but it usually takes a little bit longer. So EotM has just reset. There's four hours in each match, and so at the very start, the way it works is there's only one overflow. There's just one, and some people call it the main overflow, but it's the first overflow. There's only one overflow that opens up at the start, and it usually takes about 3 minutes for it to fill up, depending on the hour of the day or the day of the week. And after it fills up, the way it knows when it's filled up is when one of the 3 sides has reached the capacity. Then that means they'll open up a second overflow. And so here we go, we're into the main overflow. So if you wanted to command this, you would already have your commander tag up as you're spam clicking to get an EotM. You'd want a movement build, and as soon as you get in, you just run forward, and you can call on team chat. You could say something like forge, or like you just say basically where you're going. Let them know that you're trying to command and you're not just accidentally having the tag up. And the rule is whoever gets the tag first is the one who commands the match. Now not everyone follows the rule. Sometimes people don't tag down, so you might end up trying to get the second or third overflow, which we're going to be taking a look at for pretty much the remainder of the video, is what the footage is going to show. So that's how overflows open up and fill up. So after, as I said, one of the 3 sides reaches capacity, then the second overflow will open up, and when the second overflow opens up, it'll preference every single person who's trying to join EotM into that second overflow. And then when that one fills up, the third overflow will open up, and same thing. So it usually takes about 3 minutes for the second overflow to open up, and about maybe 8 minutes for the third overflow to open up. And basically, whenever you're joining EotM, there's probably, after let's say 45 minutes have passed by since the match is reset, maybe there's around 6 to 8 EotM overflows after the time has passed and the overflows have filled up. The way it decides which overflow that you're put in, it preferences you to the EOTM overflow that needs the numbers. So if you're, let's say, frost reach, and what it's going to do if you're frost reach, it's going to look at all the frost reach overflows, all the overflows for frost reach. Whichever frost reach side needs the numbers the most, it'll put you there. So that's the way that works. Joining overflows while in a party. Okay, so if you're partied up with a buddy and they're in EOTM already, let's say, then if you just enter EOTM, it'll put you in their overflow. It doesn't matter if they're the same team or a different team than you, it'll still put you in their overflow. So you can be teamed up with someone on the enemy team who's your friend, and you can still see them and everything. You can still battle them, but you're still on different teams. So the way that actually kind of helps you is if your overflow is bad, but you have a buddy who's in a good overflow, or at least in an overflow where your side is doing good, or your buddy can tell that your side's doing good, you can still join your friend's party and just join EOTM, or leave and re-enter, and it'll put you in their overflow. So that's pretty helpful. You can also type out /IP to find out which overflow you're in. And for the main overflow, remember you just join right away. You can type /IP, that's the IP address of the main overflow. So let's say you don't get the tag first. Then what you're going to end up doing is just keep leaving and rejoining just repeatedly until you end up getting into that second overflow. I haven't been paying attention to the recording, but I think that's what I'm doing in the recording. I'm leaving and rejoining repeatedly until I get the second overflow, and just do that as fast as you can. The way you know that you're in the second overflow is, well, you can remember the IP address of the main overflow from typing /IP. You can see who's commanding the main overflow and see if you see the name. You can remember that the score is going to be a little bit higher in the main overflow, at least at first. And you know that when a fresh overflow opens up, you know that nothing's captured except for the keeps. And you know the score is going to be 100 on each side, so you're just going to keep leaving and re-entering. And that's pretty much how the overflow system works. Now, in terms of commanding, if you want to command the first overflow, if you want to command the second overflow, the third overflow, it's honestly easier to command the second or third overflow because from what I've just found, I don't really necessarily know why, but the main overflow is more likely to have trolls, and it's more likely to have guild groups because they're coordinated and they're ready for when EOTM is resetting. They're ready to go, and they just go ahead, and then they enter EOTM. And it's also true that the average commander is better in the main overflow than in the second or third overflow. It's just on average. I mean, the commander in the second overflow could be better than the first, but just on average, the commander in the main overflow is better on average. And the reason is that it filters. You can kind of think it filters out. If you're in the main overflow, you know that someone who's commanding the main overflow knew the timing on how EOTM was going to reset, and they specifically wanted to command, and they tagged up first. It's not as often that people specifically log in and they want to command the second or third overflow. You might get someone who's commanding those overflows that just happened to recognize there's no tag up, so they just tag up because no one else is, but maybe didn't necessarily want to command. So if you are just starting out commanding, you're going to actually want to try to command the second or third overflow. They'll also have less numbers at first. They'll build up slower, because what happens with the main overflow is it gets this huge spike of players immediately when the match is reset, and they're all people who they got kicked out of their EOTM overflow previously because it finished, and then they're waiting until it goes back up, and then they enter right when it goes back up. Whereas when the second overflow opens up, that's typically 3 minutes after it's reset, and a lot of people who wanted to play EOTM will be getting back in there right when it gets back up. They won't have like a 3-minute delay. So that's why the main overflow really gets a big spike of players right when it resets. Whereas the second overflow, it does build up slower than the main overflow, and it might never quite have the same numbers at first that the main overflow has, but over time, as people leave the main overflow and people get redistributed between overflows, they'll all start to have the same amount of numbers. So in the end, don't worry about it. It's just the biggest difference will be the start in terms of how the overflows work. So I'm still trying to get the second overflow, which is unbelievable, and I think this is the one I get it. You can always do /IP to check if it's the same or different. You can look at the commander tags, but I would highly recommend trying to get the second or third overflow if you're just starting out. If you don't get the tag in the first overflow, just try to get the second or third. After the third, I give up pretty much because that's already been like 8 or 9 minutes. But you can see this is the second overflow. I typed /IP. The last 3 numbers, other than the :0, you can ignore that. But the last 3 numbers were different, and you can see that only the keeps are captured. So we've got a fresh overflow, And that's pretty much how that works. Last thing, this is pretty basic, how the teams are decided. So whatever color you are in World vs. World for the week, that's what color you are in EOTM for the week. So if I'm Tarnished Coast, my server's blue this week, that means I'm going to be blue in every single EOTM match this whole week. So when World vs. World resets Friday night, I may or may not be blue again. It just depends on what my World vs. World server is, and then whatever color I get there for my World vs. World server, that's my EOTM color for the week. Now, so since I'm blue, my teammates in EOTM are all the servers, all the servers that are blue in World vs. World for that week. So I could have, jQuery, maybe not necessarily jQuery, but jQuery, CSROs, Yaxpin, whatever on my team this week. And then maybe next week they're a different color than me and I get different pair of servers on my team. That's pretty much how it works. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.